Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Beautifully Broken podcast. I'm here with my good friend Amitay. How are you?
Very good.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great being here.
It's been so long since I
Yeah.
wanted to have you on, and here we are. Now, I will say, we are in West Palm Beach.
hmm
There's people walking down a hallway behind us. We're at Eudaimonia. It's a wellness festival in West Palm. We're really encompassing this idea of purpose and health and holism. We're tying it all together. And Amitay is here. He is my expert skincare guru. Above all things, you know about health of the skin.
Yeah.
If we bumped into each other in Whole Foods
hmm
and I were to say, what do you do? What would you tell me?
I aim to slow, stop, and reverse skin aging.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And have you always had this mission in your life?
No. So in short, I was in the red light therapy space, and we were kind of the first company trying to introduce, low-level lasers, red light to consumers. That was a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
And the idea around like changing lives with something that changes the appearance or improves the appearance came because we tried to sell, and I'm sure you have had a lot of conversations around red light therapy. You're trying to explain to people that it's going to improve anything from their circulation to pain to acute mental acuity to really anything, because it is a component of life. And it doesn't always register. And when you tell them they're going to look better, there is a shift in their listening, in the way that they receive that information. And for me, that was the first time that I realized that you can achieve uh, uh, success in communication as far as like improvement of health through something that people have their ego attached to. To me, since then, my ego is attached to more to like my athletic performance or um, you know I don't know, to the way that people perceive if I'm intelligent or not. But that's still ego, and you need to know where you're motivated, from and to. And without judgment, some people it is the way that they are presenting themselves physically to the world, and
Yeah.
and that is as good of a focal point as any to affect someone's overall health.
Yeah. I'm so unattached. I'm really interested in getting people in the door.
Yeah.
I want to help.
Yeah.
But if I were to put up a sign and I were to say, my joke is that if I ever made a storefront, it would be move pain free
hmm
or come here for weight loss.
hmm
Because as long as I get you in the door,
Yeah.
then I'm going to talk about heart-centered mission. I'm going to talk about language, relationship quality. We
Yeah.
could go on and on and on. You might have weight loss as a result
Uh-huh.
of all the things that we're going to work on. I'm so unattached.
Yeah.
So in your experience in the red light industry, I just didn't think we were going to go here, but I'd love your opinion. How much impact can you make with a red light technology dependent on its quality and efficacy versus something like a serum or a cream or a supplement?
Well, it's an awesome question. And I would argue that if you had made a difference, it would be coming from the same set of mechanistic um, effects or mechanistic modulations, which is mitochondria driven, and also the ability of cells to access useful information.
Okay.
That's on a deep level. So basically saying, red light therapy, in short, improves energy production, improves blood circulation, and also we can argue that it structures water and other things. But if you think about, and obviously deals with oxidative stress, actually moves it around, if you would, which actually yields positive results. Very similar things could be done with a serum. I mean, sunblock is slightly different and a different conversation, and one would argue it's not even skincare. It's something that's on the skin, like a block. But as far as like positively impacting skin products, that would come from the same place: youthful function and stimulation for repair.
Mm-hmm.
Red light does it. I think red light is maybe something people should buy before they invest in skincare products. And the reason is it's because you buy it one time, hopefully for a lifetime, but at least for 5-10 years. And the amount of nitric oxide and ATP and other molecules that you're going to invest tens of thousands of dollars in order to introduce into your skin, you could do with the $500 to $1,000 panel that you never have to repurchase. I would say at least you don't have to repurchase for a long time. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it answers the question, but yeah.
Certainly. No, I mean, I would just join with you in saying that I have an esthetician I work with
Mm-hmm.
in Austin, Texas, who's always like, she's like, and I tell her, she was like, what are you doing for sunblock? And I don't use any at this time. I do believe I should. And in the morning, I do 10 to 15 minutes in front of my full body red light
Mm-hmm.
panel, front
I know.
15.
I watch your stories.
You watch me naked on
Yeah,
Instagram.
that's true.
And I do the front, I do the back. And I have not sunburned. I live in Austin, Texas. I'm from upstate New York, and I'm not a dark skinned human being.
Mm-hmm.
But it's made an impact in how my body responds to the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And so my understanding is that with the red light, I'm charging my cells. There's more energy. They're more resilient to damage. So I think I'm doing something there. Are you a person who believes, because you have beautiful skin, your wife has beautiful skin, we're going to get into your skincare line. Are you someone who wears sunblock?
First of all, you're correct. And you're doing something that is congruent with the human body. Sunblock is not. I'm going to answer your question. I do put sunblock, and I think it's important, but it is not congruent with the way we have evolved to deal with the sun. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, there is no function in our body that builds sun callus, by the way, is a myth. It doesn't exist. It's your pigment is your sunblock of sorts. But really what happens is sun creates, or UV radiation creates free radicals. Your body then is good or bad at dealing with the free radicals. It's imperfect because we're not meant to live forever. And this UV also causes mutation in your DNA that are very hard to mitigate with just managing your body's ability to deal with oxidative stress. But that's really what you're doing when you're using red light therapy. By the way, even if you use, that is where the only maybe connection that near infrared and red have with far infrared, which both improve your response to oxidative stress. That's, if anyone wants to look at a study, it's called the triangle of reactive or ROS, of reactive oxygen species, facial rejuvenation in the triangle of reactive oxygen species. Great study. There's another study, by the way, from the University of Yonsei in Korea, looking at pigmentation and obviously adverse sun effect, UV damage effects, and red light therapy, exposing ourselves to red light therapy before going out to the sun. Mm-hmm. And what you are feeling as a person is actually proven scientifically.
Yeah.
Again, but I do think that you should get plenty of sunlight. I think the areas that are usually exposed to a lot of different environmental stressors, whether it is blue light. So blue light is as adversely affecting your mitochondria as red and near infrared are affecting mitochondria positively. So imagine right now we are exposed to blue light, and we will be for the next 8 hours. So imagine, how negatively impactful that is to your mitochondria, as opposed to like a 20-minute red light therapy session, mm-hmm. right? So, but you're only exposed, where you are exposed, right? Like your face, your arms. So those are not good areas to then expose to the sun if you want to get good results. You want to expose your areas that are more normally hidden. And the same thing I could say about anything from EMF to pollution to heavy metals to glyphosates to, really any type of like mitochondrial disruptor or cellular function disruptor. Yeah. So I would say those areas should be protected by more than just your biology. And then when you do go to the sun, you should do it with areas that are more, I would say, more effective at dealing with that damage or less disrupted.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Just for the audience at home, when we talk about the body having a negative impact from blue light, what are the primary sources that blue light is coming from in this artificial environment that we live in and all the modern, like,
Yeah.
ease that comes
Mhm.
with technology design.
So that's called, by the way, blue light obviously is a spectrum in the sun. You get it from the sun.
Yes.
But that is not the blue light that we are actually talking about. We are talking about what is called high energy visible light,
Mm-hmm.
which is normally from, light bulbs, but significantly more from screens and your phone, computer, things like that. That has, a very odd ratio of blue to other spectra of light, and it doesn't have, you know, near far infrared spectrum that kind of balances it out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So there are now studies showing like pigmentation from like taking selfies, you know.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's just like an idea as far as like why blue light is unhealthy. It curbs mitochondrial function.
Yeah.
It also produces oxidative stress even from bacteria. So actually, the reason it is good for acne is because it produces oxidative stress, which kills bacteria. The bacteria itself produces an oxygen singlet that destroys it, but in excess, that also affects our skin. Now, I'll just say when you do use blue light for acne, you shouldn't actually use it together with red light. You're kind of counteracting
Yeah.
those. You should probably separate those.
Yeah. So interesting. And then I know there's multiple products online right now that you can use to support at a very intense blue light spectrum
Yeah.
for acne. There are studies to support that. And at the same time, as we're killing those bacteria that are creating an environment for acne, I imagine that we're impacting some of the beneficial bacteria as well.
Yeah. So the spectrum that is used for anti-acne bacteria is specifically to be absorbed by P. acne bacteria.
Okay.
Not saying that the photon is so smart that the light particle so smart that it says, no, I'm going to only be exposed or only be absorbed by P. acne bacteria. No, but other bacteria are more absorbent of other spectra, other parts of the spectrum, but to the most part, it affects a very specific colony or very specific strains, and P. acne bacteria are one of them. And it doesn't necessarily affect the entire organism. Having said that, again, it does affect the mitochondria negatively. You don't want to use blue light willy-nilly, even if you have acne. Like there is a drawback. You're paying something.
Got it.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating, all the ways in which we can work with the body and the cells and the mitochondria. But I want to come back to this idea of when we're supporting the energy of the cell, everything's improving. So you said you started in red light.
Yeah.
And then you've moved into a supplementation company for the skin. How is the health of our skin interrelated with our internal health?
Okay, that's a great question. And I think the lowest hanging fruit is actually detoxification. So if your skin doesn't detoxify well, you are going to suffer. One of the reasons, by the way, that chemical SPF sunblock is not good for you is because it actually impedes some of the detoxification of the skin. But that's a really low hanging fruit, and we kind of know that we need detoxification. We can support it by, again, like sauna. Red light helps as well. There are a few things we can do. But another thing that is less known is the accumulation of cellular debris and senescent cells in the skin that then affects your brain and the rest of the body. And that's something that these are newer series of studies, mainly out of Portugal, that really speak to the health of the skin as an information relaying organ to the brain.
Okay.
So imagine we use our eyes and our sense of smell. It's very understandable how these relay information to the brain. They are the messengers of the environment to the brain and vice versa. But your skin is another communication organ. So your skin can actually sense stresses from the environment, and it does have a direct pathway to the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which that is the center for stress interpretation in the brain. It's called the skin brain axis. And what happens when we have inflammation in general, but also basically senescent cells or zombie cells that produce inflammation in the form of secretory phenotypes of those cells. So they can infect other cells. That's why they're called zombie cells. They can actually send those signals down that skin-brain axis and actually inflame and stress out our brain, which in turn, some people claim it like changes brain size, stuff like that. But really what it does, it then disrupts the stress response and the perception of stress throughout our body. And if you have ever watched a presidential a president after 4 years in office or 8 years in office, they don't look too good after they're stressed.
Yeah.
I mean, that stress is one of the major aging drivers of our body as a whole.
Yes.
So by managing those types of malfunctioning processes, senescence is one of them, but the lack of cell communication, many also basically all of the hallmarks of aging, by managing them and making sure that we mitigate a lot of their effects in the skin, we actually then mitigate a lot of the effects that affect this cascade of metabolic events that would age your body as a whole.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I had no idea that my skin health had the possibility to impact cognitive function. It makes a lot of sense for me.
Mm-hmm.
I have had people, I've heard people regurgitate this fact that if you get rid of all your body hair,
Mm-hmm.
that the body has a different reactivity with outside world, which makes a lot of sense. Body hair is picking up sound. It's if you've ever felt the hair stand on up in your arm,
Mm-hmm.
and you get this alert response, that makes a lot of sense to me. Now, I join with you in the fact that the skin is what we would say in biological medicine is a primary emunctory.
Yeah.
So it's a primary pathway
Mm-hmm.
for something other than self to leave the body.
Uh-huh.
So I know it's important. I know it's not just about up here on my grill.
Yeah.
I have seen that. I'm sure you've seen this image. There's this very either a cab driver or a truck driver.
Yeah.
She always had her left window open, so one side of her face is like, it looks like Darth Vader.
Yeah.
It looks not cute.
Uh-huh.
So
no bueno.
So I know the role also that when the milieu, when the internal environment is not nourished,
Mm-hmm.
that our skin is highly susceptible to sun damage.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell me, in your pivot to skincare, what are some of the most important components you've seen to add in to a daily regimen?
Do you mean externally or as far as diet?
Externally.
Okay. I think the most, so if we go to first principles, like what do we lose, what do we lack? Because really what we think of aging, especially in the skin, is the accumulation of unrepaired damage. That's really, if you think of what aging is, or how our body experiences aging, it is every time there is damage and it is not being repaired.
Mm-hmm.
So the two most impactful molecules that you could have are the primary molecules for repair processes in the body, NAD, boosting NAD. Boosting NAD sounds easier than it is, but proper NAD, so NAD precursors, the ability to recycle NAD, and you can do that, by using nano-sized precursors. We at Young Goose use them. I'm sure other companies are going to find ways to do it as well. By now, other companies use adjacent molecules that are not that great, but I'm sure there will be companies doing that soon. That's number one. And there is a patent called Rejuve NAD that helps you recycle NAD. It's not our patent. We're actually working on integrating it into our skincare, and it's a pretty small Swiss manufacturer, so I don't actually know who else is using it.
Okay.
Maybe from this podcast, other companies are going to use it, but this is a good. These are two good pathways to kind of use. And the second, or maybe the most important, is autophagy. So for now, we know spermidine is incredible to trigger autophagy. To the extent, by the way, new research is going to come out showing that even in the DNA expression of autophagy, you need to have sufficient spermidine. So it's not only triggering autophagy, which is cellular recycling, the recycling of malfunctioning cells or their parts to newer cells. So it will affect, senescence. So NAD and spermidine together cover the entire gamut of the 12 hallmarks of aging.
Okay.
So these two are, in my opinion, the most important molecules you could apply on your skin. If you don't want to use our skincare, I am not. That's not why we started the company, to push it down everyone's throat. So if you don't want to do it, you want to take your NAD, NMN, or NR supplements, and if it's not in a rigid, if it's not in a condensed form tablet, if you just want to pour it into your cream and pour some spermidine into your cream and mix it together, not sure it's the best user experience, but you could do that. But in my opinion, these are the two most important.
Do you say with cream because it's fat soluble?
Actually, so the NAD in and on its own is not fat soluble because it's not liposomal. If you have a liposomal version, yes, but it is carried well enough to, if you mix it immediately and you don't let it degrade, it is carried well enough to be absorbed. Spermidine, like a full spectrum spermidine, is fat soluble. Some of the synthetic versions are defatted, and they're not. That's a whole different story. Look for natural sources of spermidine, ones that are not. It's exactly like NAD. You want actually the precursors.
Yeah.
So the real impactful molecules are ones that turn into spermidine, not necessarily spermidine.
So I'll ask you only because I'm sure there's going to be people who have never heard of NAD and never heard of spermidine. So if we just 30 seconds, nicotine adenosine dinucleotide.
Nicotinamide adenosine dinucleotide.
I was close.
Yeah.
Give me the elevator pitch on why NAD is important and why we need it for anti-aging.
The currency of repair in the body. That's what it is. Okay. I take it away from you, you're dead in 30 seconds. NAD is. So it is what helps us create energy. It allows energy creation, and 600 repair processes in the body, all the repair processes, rely on NAD as a coenzyme, not even for the energy part, as a potentiator. They won't work if they don't have enough NAD. That includes it. DNA repair, that includes everything. That's NAD. Spermidine is a fasting mimetic. It tricks cells to think you're fasting. And we know that when you're fasting, cells, instead of like going crazy and splitting and making mistakes, they go back and they fix what's wrong. They recycle the malfunctioning parts. If the cell isn't functioning correctly, the body can recognize it. And what is autophagy, self-eating, it can kind of recycle it. So these two together are the currency and the potential repair and the trigger for recycling and repair. So
yeah, it's such great information. The NAD conversation has been around. I've had Don Moxley on. We've talked about spermidine. The only other thing I want to revisit is senescent cells, because I think that's really interesting. We've not done a deep dive on senescence. You've said zombie cells. Tell me a little bit more about what that looks like in the body and why it's something we should focus on as far as anti-aging and health.
So I'm going to say something that I think would interest even people who heard about senescent cells. Senescent was born in the body as a pro-longevity process. So we know that if we take mice and we kind of eliminate the senescent process, they die very early.
Okay.
Because senescence is basically the body's ability to halt the growth of cells that have completely no idea what they're doing, cells that have lost all their genetic information as far as like how to behave properly. So it's basically cell jail. Okay. Cells can do two things: multiply and die. And if they lose the ability, the knowledge on how to die, because that's part of their information of what they need to do. Cell knows, oh, I need to do 1, 2, and 3, and then I die. Okay. If they don't know how to die, the body has a solution, a compromise, where it says, you know what? Okay, don't die, but go there and just don't mess with any other cells.
Be in cell jail.
Be in cell jail. So, yeah. Okay. The problem is that it screams out of that jail. And that's what we call it zombie cells. It's because they kind of don't know what they're doing, but also they can infect other cells. So cells work on inertia. Our body works on inertia. Life works on inertia. Inertia stops. Their heart stops, say for a while, that you cannot recreate that inertia. So cells work on inertia. Once they're alive and they have the inertia to propel themselves forward, it's not like they stop. So all they create, though, as a senescent cells, is an inflammatory signal that we call SASP, which is the type of inflammatory signal that then disrupts other cells and actually drives them into senescence.
Yeah.
So that is why we call it zombie cells. So you can really imagine cells that don't function correctly and are left behind, and they're like zombies. So they slow down the whole system. They create damage. They create stress,
Yeah.
and they accumulate. And one thing that I would say, the more times, so obviously we have a new liver every 2 to 3 years, but we have
Yes.
half a new heart every 25 years. We have a new skin layer if you're young, 14, if you're old, 28 days. Why am I saying all of that? It's because cells divide, or they kind of multiply in different rates. The more cells need to divide and multiply, the more mistakes there are, the more senescent cells you're going to find in that tissue. Skin is obviously very prone to senescence because of that, but also because the skin is inundated with interference from the environment. It
Yes.
even has more than that. So that is why the skin specifically is a very problematic organ as far as it's the senescent burden it applies on the body.
Yeah. It's a fascinating conversation to have, which I didn't anticipate my brain go. Well, because a lot of times you think skin, you think aesthetics,
Yeah.
beauty,
Uh-huh.
not always longevity, health, almost a shield from the environment
Mm-hmm.
that does really bear the brunt of a lot of these environmental toxins interface. You know, we can go on and on and on, especially again, we have a lot of modern luxuries and there is a cost to uh, whatever we could, you know, from EMF to interference to flying 3 times a month,
Yeah.
right? Radiation exposure.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important. Now, when you started out with the skin line and you knew there were things you wanted to include, um, as an entrepreneur, how did you learn about formulation, ratios? I mean, I could only imagine you can probably slather a lot of stuff in a bottle and push it all over your face and
Yeah.
maybe not get the desired results.
Well, we say in Hebrew, it's a great question, actually. We say in Hebrew, when money meets experience, experience leaves with the money, and the money leaves with experience. So it was really passion to create the most efficacious products through research as well. And that is really how you learn what works and what not. You know, you don't want to make more mistakes that cost you more money.
Mm-hmm.
You want to hire the right people. You want to be interested and passionate about what you are doing, because only you would care about your product as much as the product deserves.
Mm.
No one else does. Even if
Yeah,
even if they think they do, they don't.
so true.
So it's funny because people think that they find something that they love and then do it for a living, and then it's not working. In my opinion, I think it's hard to find something that you like off the bat and that never gives you like bad vibes, like things won't go wrong. I think you're the one lucky person in the world, and these are unfortunately the people that then regurgitate it. But I think most of the time you need to teach yourself how to love what you're doing.
Yeah.
You need to have a conversation with yourself and say, if I'm not going to be enthralled, passionate, obsessed with this is not going to get the attention and the success that it deserves. And I mean, I've had in my journey times when I wasn't like that, and I've learned my lesson.
Mm.
And by the time Young Goose came about, especially when we had to launch an actual product, because when it's research, it's fun, and things don't go wrong because everything is hypothetical. But when we had to launch a product, that's when the rubber met the road. That's when I understood I need to stop. I'll give you an example. I need to stop smoking weed. I need to stop other, hobbies the only thing I have left is jujitsu, really, which I am addicted to. But everything else which would put me in danger, out of, sync, out of whatever, it needs to stop. And I need to become the person that is obsessed with the product, with by the way, with people's life results, not only their skin, but how do I create the best results for the person who uses the product as a whole. That's why podcasts started. Like we have a biohacking beauty, podcast that you definitely should be on.
I'm coming.
Yes, sounds good. And the whole podcast is not to talk about skincare, or now people ask questions, so we do, but it's to create the best functioning human beings that would then, if they use our products or not, they would have the best skin that they can have. So,
yeah. That we're learning dramatically impacts other areas of our health. When you first launched your company, I would love to know when that was. What was your launch date? Because I know we met very early on. We met in the fall of 2021.
Yes.
In Miami at an event. I would love to know when you launched, and has anything stayed the same as far as things that you launched in your skincare line, or are they always evolving and changing?
Oh, it's a great question. So double question. Number one, we launched really December of 2019.
Okay.
We launched as a B2B brand that basically the idea was only to sell the practices. But I don't know if you know, there was a little bug that was going around.
I heard about this.
Yeah. Some people got sick. Anyway, so everything closed, and we had 1,500 bottles that we actually bought back from clinics that closed. And we had to pivot to a B2C company, basically direct to consumer company. Huge learning curve. We didn't know what we're doing. We had a good product. We had a few connections in the derm world, and we thought we were going to make it, but we were like, okay, what are we doing? And no money, because we basically bought back all the. So that is how we started. So when you met us, I think it was post pivot. It was just a few months post pivot, where we said we're gonna have to educate people, maybe one by one, but we're gonna have to educate people. And back then, NAD wasn't. No one knew what it is, right? They think we spelled "and" wrong.
Yes.
I don't know.
It was a very, very niche market. It was even having the conversation.
Very, very. And by the way, yeah, it's crazy how it blew up, but it also gives us a lot of confidence as far as other things that we believe in, like spermidine, like senolytics, like, ergothioneine that we're now excited about, which is the active ingredient in lion's mane mushroom, for example, or ectoine, which is a protein that structures water around proteins, like collagen. So we are now very confident to say, hey, we know this is going to be big, whatever that is, right? Or exosomes, which we are heavily invested in researching. So that's that. And I think what stayed the same is the relationship between myself and Anastasia, my wife. We still do it together. We love doing it together. It is the best moments of our work when we get to do something together. And another thing that is very uncommon as a company, and actually it's kind of, is innovation, is pipeline, is R&D, is taking all the money that the company makes, besides paying our bills, paying our employees, and obviously marketing and stuff like that, goes back to R&D 100%. If you go to my house, you don't think it's a 9-figure company. No, you don't. We have a little house in Del Rey. That's basically, nothing fancy.
Yeah.
But the main we are obsessed with innovation, and that didn't change.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Because we're at an event, and you're talking to people, and I want to let you get back to work. I would love if you had a point to send people. Where do we go and learn about Young Goose? Where can they go to have a deeper dive? And let's start with those two. I'm going to save my last one.
Okay, so younggoose.com is the website. Instagram is very good. Like, Instagram is very informative. It's young_goose_skincare. And the podcast is the deep dive. It's it's a biohacking beauty podcast. Really, it is nerding out on, whether, how your body makes vitamin A for your skin and how can you mimic it, to, I don't know, why binaural beats are good for your overall health and your skin, and, anything in between, really.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Third question,
Yeah.
if somebody was looking to really take skincare to the next level and they get to the website, would you as a new customer find yourself in a state of overwhelm, or would you find it very easy? Okay, where do I start?
Good question. That's a challenge with a company that is very nuanced and a lot of moving parts. But the best thing to do is it's a good question. We're trying to simplify it all the time. We have a questionnaire, very easy questionnaire. Because why? Because there is a supplement company I was trying to get supplements from, and the questionnaire took me 5 minutes. That's a long time for a questionnaire. So maybe more. Anyway, so very easy questionnaire. What are you doing? What's your concern? Stuff like that. You get basically 3 systems recommended to you. Very simple, medium, advanced. Choose one of those. Easy peasy.
Yeah. Amazing. Where would I start? Who uses? I don't use anything right now.
Face wash, adaptogenic cleanser, and Youth Daily Moisturizer, which has all of the ingredients that we spoke about today.
Okay. Yeah. The moisturizer and the face wash. I take showers, man, but I use very little. I don't have hair. It's such a low maintenance game right now.
I understand.
But I'm ready to step it up. I'm going to be 50 in 3 years.
It's crazy.
I know.
You look so good.
50. What? But I do feel like an old man a little bit sometimes.
Me too. I popped a rib without any contact the other day. So
I love it. And while I got you on, because I'm such a tech nerd, what are some technologies that in this space that you just love? And we mentioned red light. Yeah.
Metabolomic testing. I think it's the next best thing. We've heavily invested in it. Q1, we're going to have the ability of practitioners to, have you have a metabolomic panel and tell you what products your epigenetics need.
Okay.
And I think in general, it's not only us. The omics sciences are where it's at.
Yes.
That's number one. Obviously, I think red light's going to be in every home in the end of the day. Biological building, what's it called? Like when eliminating EMF in the restroom, in the restroom you can have EMF in the bedroom and things like that. And I think that the ability to the prescription for community is going to be something the same way where 100 years ago, if people had like lung issues, they would send them to the beach. They would go to live on the beach, or at least visit the beach, which is we're obsessed with molecules, but there is something else, not only molecules, right? I think you look at Blue Zones on Netflix, you look at any type of like epidemiological study, and they all have these, usually purple yams and I don't know what. That's all BS in my opinion. What is the common denominator there is having community, is feeling important over time, feeling understood, loved, feeling that the rules that you play by are reciprocated. And I believe this is at least 50% of longevity.
I would go above 50 because I'm so blessed to do something I love. But I will say part of the trade-off is a lot of times I'm with a screen or I'm on a cell phone, I'm isolated. And it's events like these, it's the dinners, that we often get to go out. I went out with 6 strangers yesterday. I knew one person. We just had a lovely time.
Yeah.
And just deeply listening to what people are going through, what they're experiencing.
Yeah.
And I would join with you. I think just top of my list is community. And sometimes the tech can be very sterile. That can pull us away. It's like, well, I can have a whole biohacking studio in my home and just be alone. And that's not magic.
By the way, in the same way as, ice baths, which you have at home, is uncomfortable to get into. And we can talk about, sauna, exercise, whatever. These are things that your body, whatever, it's like the laws of physics. A body that is not in motion wants to stay not in motion still. and body in motion wants to stay in motion. The same thing applies when you're outside of it, when you're alone in your house. You actually don't want to go out. You don't want to interact with people sometimes. But you got to push yourself out of your comfort zone and do it, just like other health practices that are going to make you grow, etc. And I think technology a lot of times just makes it so easy to not do it. There are so many other enticing alternatives. I think for me, social media, if I really boiled it down, it is the alternative to community. Like you go there to find a piece of connection. I think podcasts, like I think Joe Rogan is successful because he makes you feel like you're in the room.
Yeah, 100%.
And I hope people feel like that now. But anyway, so
I think they do. I mean, listen, we have I mean, I love my audience. People are so great.
Yeah.
I have a lot of real people that are really engaged. You know, there's no bots out there.
Yeah.
People are saying, this is amazing. This sucks. I can't believe you expect me to pay this price for this thing. And, you know, it's very real. So
yeah.
you know, I'm aware. So I just listened to a panel. You guys don't know this yet. I was just listening to a panel on GLP-1s.
Yeah.
We had Callie Means. We had who do we have? We had a reality TV host. We had JJ Virgin. We had and it was wild. It was like a fight. It was like a fight on stage. It was very intense. Lots of really powerful opinions. Not a lot of listening. Not a lot of deep listening. No joining with each other. And I just sat back from the experience, and it was so. I could feel my adrenaline pumping on my body, and I was engaged. And that's what gets clicks on social media.
Yeah.
You didn't get a warm and fuzzy feeling. You definitely didn't feel, I didn't feel inspired, right? I got talked at and above, as opposed to, I just think, my God, as we go into this election, well, this will come out after the election. Who knows what happens? But this is the country, right? We're like, it's like a coin flip. Everybody hates everybody. They're not willing to join anywhere.
Yeah.
And I just believe in my heart of hearts that if you got in front of someone, you did some deep listening, I don't think we would hate each other as much as portrayed on social media. I just don't believe it.
I'll tell you more than that. You know, of course, politics are difficult and are very dividing. But the impact on your life is, you know, I never heard anyone disliking someone because of their election for sheriff. I don't know what, but that is significantly more impactful on your life than you know who's president. You know what's going on in your community. You know, no one. Yeah, no one. So it's funny that we have this extremely divided interpersonal communication right now, but it is. It really has nothing to do. I mean, the effect is just negative on our lives. Like the minute that you inject judgment and negative feelings to the environment because of someone's political opinions, you might be thinking that you are serving some general good, but you're actually, there is no benefit whatsoever into doing that. So, and I think the reason people are doing it to begin with is actually to somehow they believe they serve some cause, but the cause is non-existent. The king is not wearing any clothes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think obviously, and I think it's redundant to say, but it's important. That is how the war of your attention on your attention is waged. It is by triggering you, and it is by brainwashing you to think that your opinion, first of all, that you're right, but that your opinion and the things that your opinion is about are the most important things. And it is it's kind of crazy, you know. An alien would come, and it would be very weird for them. Yeah. But in general, you inject bad juju, bad vibes into the environment, you have made it worse. You did not make it better, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's close it up for now. Again, I deeply appreciate you sitting down with me. The time.
My pleasure.
We'll do a deep dive.
Yeah.
because there's so much to talk about, and we've never talked about skincare, not in 220 episodes.
Wow.
I know. Again, I'm excited, but I also want to get on some Young Goose. I want to do the Freddie taste test, whatever. We'll see how
Yeah.
great we can make me age as I approach 50.
Uh-huh.
I got 3.5 years, and we'll do it again.
Sounds good.
If people go to the website and they purchase, can we do a code?
Yeah, let's do whatever you want it to
Can
be.
we do Beautifully Broken?
Yeah.
All one word? Because
Yeah.
that's what you guys are used to. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, whether you watch us on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple. If you hear this and you have a moment where, God, Cindy needs to hear this, or Danny, or my cousin Susan, whatever it is, you'd be shocked what conversations spark people into action. I said at the top of the show, it's about how do you get people in the door and get them excited about what's possible with the human body. This could be the one. So share, like, subscribe, leave us a comment. This is my good friend Amitay. We will link the podcast.
Sounds good.
We will link your show, and we will link the website. We'll put a code up here. I'll do an intro this. You're going to hear all this at the top of the show anyway, but big love. We're out.
Thank you. Bye, guys.